Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the House. Today I wanted to add to the conversation in a couple of different ways. And as we were talking about this minority impact statement, let me give you the genesis just really quick. Representative Akil Abdul-Samad, Representative Ruth Ann Gaines, Representative Ross Smith, and myself, we decided to come together to try to help change the trajectory of the bills that are put through the House. Now, why do we want to do that? Here's why we want to. In all our Iowa communities, or at least in most of our Iowa communities, there are people of color, whether it be Hispanic, whether it be African American, whether it be Asian. There are many communities with people of color in them. And we do a disservice when we don't recognize that. So I went back to the original bill created by Representative Wayne Ford when he was here. And also, that was back in 2008, or 2009, I'm not quite sure which it was, but in 2015, a very interesting article came out. So that was several years after this bill was enacted. And so I went back and I looked at that statement, or well, actually what it is that this was actually done by something called the Iowa View, and it's from the Des Moines Register, and I looked at what the article was talking about, and I'm just going to share some points with you. Across the country, tensions are rising between minorities and law enforcement, causing war zones and what should be peaceful neighborhoods. This is a national cry for leadership or some meaningful response to deteriorating relationships with our communities. Now again, this addresses incarceration, but I think it's apropos in what we're going to be talking about today. And if you don't know what a minority impact statement is, here's what it says it is. A minority impact statement is a report that may be attached to a legislative proposal showing the projected number of minorities that could be affected based upon statistical facts and subsequent scientific assumptions. So the bill at the time took statistical data to show how it impacted people of color. I thought that was good. The other part is this. And a minority impact statement concludes that minorities will be disproportionately affected by the enactment of a certain bill, that issues need to be discussed. What is a bill attempting to resolve? Is it addressing an ongoing problem or simply a reaction to an isolated incident? A strong law enforcement lobby would like to see this bill happen. There was no consideration of impact if it was on the minorities. Excuse me, read that again. There was little to no consideration of impact it would have on minorities. This leads to the appearance of entitlement for one group at the expense of another. Let me read that again. This leads to the appearance of entitlement for one group at the expense of another. Minority impact statements open up the opportunity for discussion between law enforcement, and in this case, in other areas that we're trying to deal with, legislators and minority community. They're designed as a sounding board to strengthen relationships between minorities, and again, it's talking about law enforcement, but we're talking about it in this particular case for the bill that we have at hand. So to complete the breakdown of a community of interaction between law enforcement and residents, this is why this is so important. Lawmakers must take a look at legislation they are trying to enact. Is it necessary? Will it affect minorities? Does it create more problems than it solves? Is it resolving a dangerous situation? Answering these questions before passing legislation may lead to making equal application of a law a reality. Let me do that again. Answering these questions before passing legislation may lead to making equal application of a law a reality. We could be a leader in accepting this minority impact. And I would agree that over time we haven't done much with the minority impact statement. And as I said earlier, the four of us came together because we realized that we did have a vehicle that could address the minority impact. It was always here. Yes, it only dealt with law enforcement, but it goes beyond that. As I said earlier, we all have communities that have people of color in them. Now you may say to yourself, well, all these laws apply to everyone. That's true to a point. But again, we must take a look at it and look at the data and decide if the data matches what we're trying to do. If it doesn't, then we have to do something differently. So I'm supporting this amendment because I think it's time that we use the vehicle that's in place. And it's up to all of us to accept that so that we can move forward recognizing that minority communities or communities that have minorities in them are part of our Iowa community. So I am in support of this, and I hope you are too. Thank you.